Right, that tight on this shot, no more dysfunctioning. We reeling in the sunken and we bringing in our brother in the battles that you face and be a cannon with our confidence.
No disrespect to my sisters at all, but it's the barbershop talk. Talk the kid at the ball. I'm talking waves and just a little.
If you could just hit the speaker if somebody call right here. Yep.
Right on cue. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brothaship. This is our monthly show that we do live, but we also have reproductions on the Genesis Network. But before we get into the topics at hand, I want to just introduce everybody because this is a special show. On the actual in the studio audience, you have two of the partners and owners of the radio show, so we're in for a treat. We have DJ Rudd, the most interesting DJ in the world. We have Baytrick Bullock, who's one of the Brothaship and is a co-host of mine. We have the other partner, TP Terry Polite from the Genesis radio station, and we have the special guest, Vincent Wrice, who's a friend of mine, a professor at the collegiate level and fellow Florida A&M graduate. Now, I'm going to share some trivia that people don't know. The owner or partner, Terry Polite, is also a Florida A&M graduate, Vincent. So we kind of got them outnumbered because myself, DJ Darren Johnson, as a graduate, there are three people from Florida A&M. So the Rattlers are in the house. And today's show, I'm excited about it. We're going to talk about primarily the Black church, the African-American experience, and the church experience from 1619 to present, because I think when we talk about that with the different mindsets and experiences out there, we're going to have a really good, robust discussion on our experiences and, where we started, the midpoints, some of the highs and the lows, but most importantly, where we're going. And I think the fundamental question to start percolating in our minds is the church still the spiritual base for us? And how should that be leveraged in the future? Or has it gone another route into profiteering, etc.? So we're going to park that first because I think it would be remiss to have five brothers, strong brothers, dare I say, weigh in on obviously the elephant of the room that circulated in the news cycle, which was last week's Will Smith incident. So what I'd like to do is just ask very simply, what are your thoughts? Are you team Will? Are you team Chris? Are you team Jada? Or is it just all over and we'll leave it alone? So I'm going to defer to our guest first to get his perspective, and then we'll go into the studio and get your guys' perspective. So, Brother Vince, what's going on?
Okay, wait. I got the windows popping up. Well, I hate to go first on this because I always have the most controversial opinion, so they're gonna fire away at me. Look, it's complex. Okay, here's the thing: we got to understand who we are and where we are, right? We got to understand that this is the United States and we are Black folks. And because we are Black folks in the United States, we are not just treated differently, we're taken differently. So everything we do takes on a meaning, right? From the joke to the slap to everything Jada was doing up until that point and all of that. So there's twofold. I didn't like what happened because I know how America is interpreting this and how they're going to use it. And it will be used against the rest of us. Now, I'm not a big respectability politics thing, but I do think that we need to air our dirty laundry in private because nobody will understand what we do and when we do it. That's first. Second, okay. I think Chris Rock had a responsibility. I think we all have a responsibility to not do certain things in public. He's a seasoned professional and he's very creative, and if you're going to insult somebody, you got to have that skill. You got to be Don Rickles. You know what I'm saying? And if you think Don Rickles, you can't be insulted. I mean, Don Rickles is so good when he insults you, you got to give him a pound. You know what I'm saying? Like Chris's delivery lended itself to that incident because he has a very rough delivery with his jokes. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know the history between them two guys. I don't know their history. I don't know whether he warned that guy, yo, man, chill. You know, I don't know that. So I'm not going to get into that. But I will say certain things that play out in the public harm us all, right? And I think, you know, although Will was wrong for hitting him, none of that would have happened if Chris would have just been more creative with his joke, you know, or not told it.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, someone wrote the joke for him, but that's another story that we can get into. So I'm going to jump to my left and go to DJ Rudd, the most interesting DJ in the world. DJ Rudd, what say you? Who was right? Who was wrong? And what's the perspective at this point in the news cycle and just in general of this event?
I gotta ride with Brother Vince, man. There was no right or wrong, but it was a bad look. You know what I mean? It was a bad look because we just set ourselves up for it. But initially, when I first saw it, you know, the media that they just showed us Will smile like he appreciated the entertainment. But then when they panned to Jada and her expression said something different, like it really was bothering her, then he reacted. That's what made it fugazi, as we say. You know what I mean? Like, if that was your initial reaction, it bothered you. If you felt that way, it should have bothered you initially. You should have never laughed. And you know, that's what made him look weak from a male perspective. And then, you know, the hood is buzzing, man. Like, Chris, you from Brooklyn. How you let somebody walk up on you? Like, yeah, it's a Philly and a Brooklyn thing. At the end of the day, they looking at Chris like, don't say you from Brooklyn no more, Chris. That's not a good look. It's not a good look from any angle, from however you want to look at it. But, you know, now that just coming from a media perspective, because even at a radio station, we have a playlist, you know, track sheet or whatever you want to call it. So now we finding out that, you know, Chris had to submit his material to what he was going to say on that platform that night, and nothing about G.I. Jane or Jada. She wasn't part of the script. So that wouldn't have never probably got approved from the Oscars if he would have put that on there originally. He was just freestyling at that point, and I think he just was doing what comedians do. Sometimes they just pick on people in the front row. And, you know, hey, if I was in the front row today, he'd be like, hey, fat boy with the white shirt. You know, it would just, I would be the butt of a joke if I was sitting in the front row to some comedians. But, you know, like I said, I'm with you, Vince. It was a bad look because we know how it's going to be perceived, and we know the spin that's going to happen. And at the end of the day, it just looks like, it just looks bad for the whole culture in general. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Bay, you were the one when we started, and I think in our virtual pre-planning meeting said, hey, we have to at least mention this because obviously our show goes out to people. And, you know, as the Brothaship, we probably should chop it up because we're seeing the different facets and layers and complexities as Vince had outlined in his initial response. What say you?
Man, this whole situation, I think, is extremely, extremely complicated. And I just started Will Smith's book, and the main he's a middle child too. You know, see, he's a pleaser. You know, and Jada is a major manipulator, man. I mean, and I don't know if you guys seen the video after he slapped Chris Rock. Jada was laughing. And then she didn't even walk over there to console him in any form or fashion. So I was like, you know, something's up with that. Something's off with this whole situation. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying Chris Rock is right. I'm not saying Will is right. And then they have a history because he made jokes about Jada back in 2016. And we don't know the whole private conversation behind the scenes, you know, the actual human factor that went on between them. So they might have sat down and Will might have said, yo, man, chill with that, man. You know, we're going through something, chill with my wife. You know, they might have had something going on with that. You know, so we really don't know all the facets of it, which we will never know. And I'm not team Will, team Chris, but something's just off in my mind. Something's off, and we will find out in the future what's actually going on. And I really recommend everybody get into his book because Will is he's been traumatized by his dad. He was traumatized, you know, not protecting his mom. He's a protector and he's a pleaser, but he doesn't have that aggressiveness to take charge when the situation is actually going down. So I think this whole thing built up on him, and he just went up there and he lost it. He lost it because everybody right now, he's the butt of the joke right now. Because Jada's been dissing him on the red table talk. She slept with the son's friend, and you know they might have an open marriage. That's their thing. You know, that's what they do. That's their business. But you know, Will, I just think snapped. And I just think he couldn't take it no more. And, you know, they're going to tear him apart. It's going to be a couple of years. It's going to be Will jokes. And then he's going to do the recovery, you know, the comeback tour 4 or 5 years from now. You know, Will's going to be #1 in the box office right now. But now he's got to walk through the fire right now. You know, he's got a lot going on. So they're going to tear him apart. They're going to tear him apart. And they're going to build him back up. Like, who was it? D.L. Hughley said, I think it was D.L. Hughley or one of them said, no black actor or black entertainer gets through this business unscathed, you know, without any black marks on them or anything like that, literally, or white marks on them. We'll put it that way. But you know, that's my look at it. You know, I still am up in the air about the whole thing because the information is slowly coming out. And I tell you, I had my opinion changed when I seen Jada laughing about it, and I said something's not right there. You know, go ahead. That's all right. I got.
Well, interesting, just to add on, I know, and I think DL may have said it, but I also know and heard Eddie Griffin make that statement.
Eddie Griffin, you're right.
And
Eddie Griffin.
He had it from the perspective with some of the other actors, and he kind of had a really good, poignant story around the different instances where really high-profile African-American people in the entertainment business at one point in time had a situation where they realized they were just who, you know, the industry wanted them to be. So, point taken.
All right.
TP, tell me something.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I think that at some point, Will may have had a conversation with Chris Rock prior to this. And I think because they were friends. They clearly were friends, you know. And things could have got worse in the joke department, you know, because I do know there's a lot of things that you submit that you're going to talk about, but when you're live, you always ad-lib some stuff, throw some stuff in that you didn't submit, you know, to the folks that's running the event. But with that being said, I would also like to add and say that for the most part, I thought it was scripted.
Yeah. Because
Chris put his hands behind his back, totally relaxed. And he kind of went with it. And although he was smacked, Will's hand was open. His fingers were separated. You know, that's an active slap. So that Chris didn't absorb that blow, you know. And if you saw when Will spun around and walked away, how many cats you know from Bed-Stuy gonna let somebody smack them and then turn their back and walk away? But they both smiled. Was smiling. Will was smiling when he walked away, and Chris was smiling, but I think he had to play a role. And I say that because the Rock family is big. Everybody in Bed-Stuy know who they are, and you know what? Chris and his brother made it. You know, it's about 10 of them, right? Yeah. So Chris made it, and I know his mother because she lived in Georgetown, South Carolina. You know, and we used to have the club down in Myrtle Beach, so that's in the Myrtle Beach area. So, you know, I know them personally as well, but I think it was scripted. And the other thing I think is them folks at the Oscars knew something was going to go on. I think they was in on it too, because the Oscars went from having 160 million viewers down to 60 million viewers to last year they said there was only 15 million viewers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So what better way to make people reinvest in the Oscars and pay more attention so they can make more money from the advertisement and so on and so forth than have some controversy at Will Smith's expense? Because, you know, Chris could go in there talking about his wife being, you know, what do they call them women people that addicted to sex?
Nymphomaniacs.
Right. She could have been a nymphomaniac. Chris could have went in on that and really blew them apart, you know? So he had to pull the plug on him. Don't go too far. But I do think it's a conspiracy that they were all involved in.
Yeah.
You know, Will's going to resign. He's going to walk away. They're going to do a vote somewhere. He's going to do a movie. They're going to say he was so great in that movie. You got to put him in the rankings. You got to let him back in. You know, because that was Oscar-worthy performance. They're going to build him back up. They're going to let him back in. But the only sad part about this is Will Smith was the only African-American actor who all his roles were pretty much clean, not stereotypical, right? And everybody loved him. There was nothing negative to say about him, and I think this will come back to haunt him just a little bit. Maybe.
Wow.
I agree.
Oh my goodness. Excellent perspective. Interesting perspective. I saw some of the comments and people are saying, you know, that does have a point. So I've got to defer this to the other guests that had a delay but came in from the airport and dialed in, and I want to introduce him accordingly, brother Bruce Berry. Bruce, tell me what you think.
Family.
I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Loud and clear.
First off, I giggled because when we talked about Myrtle, when he said Myrtle Beach, I was just coming back from there, and you know it's 77 degrees, and I get here it's like 40. I'm like, oh. I think the whole perspective of things and my outlook on it is, one, I do think that not that it was staged, but it was planned. You know, if you look at Chris Rock is going on tour and whatever his sales and weren't selling out anything and tickets were going for $50. And as soon as this went down, tickets were $500 and $600 and $700 and sold out venues. So I think that it was a calculated type thing. And you know what? It happens. I mean, you know, other ethnic groups do it. And, you know, but on the flip side of it, I don't think that Will is going to take a loss at all. I think that, you know, in every perspective, he's going to be even higher. You know, he's the $20 million man, $10 million man, $15 million man. He's going to continue with that. He's going to fall back out of the limelight for a minute and, you know, resigning from the academy and things like that. Okay, it's all good. But guess what? Ain't nobody going to let that cat go. Everybody is still going to be a fan of his, as they will be of Chris Rock. But, you know, I think it makes, per se, us look like buffoons, you know, because if you're going that route, see, if it was, what's his name, Charlie Sheen or somebody like that, and I don't know, whoever was presenting, it would have been like, oh, Charlie's just being Charlie. You know, but now it puts the light on us again because you acted like a clown, both of y'all, whether it was staged, whether it wasn't. You're a clown. Y'all two look like clowns. He looked like an idiot for walking up. And I'm all about defending your wife, my wife. I'm all about it. But at the same token, we still got to understand where we are. You know, yes, you are the man and you're up for this award and you end up winning this award. And Chris is up there. And at the same token, you know, there's still strings that are attached to people. And it just made us, again, look bad. You know, it's regardless of how powerful you are and how powerful the family is and so forth and so on. You made us look bad, whether it was staged, whether it wasn't. I was ashamed, and I said, "Dang, man!" And Darren and I had talked about it for a minute. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But if that was going to take place, you can say what you want to say, stay in your seat. But I'd have caught that joker backstage, been like, "Dude, what up?" But in front of whether it's 60 million, 160 million, 15 million. It made us look bad. It made us look bad.
Well, I'm going to apologize if I kind of stop a little in my explanation or point of view, because what Terry said changed my whole perspective on it. Because I'll start with this. If this was staged, in fact, it was staged, The question then becomes, or shifts in my mind, how low are we willing to sell ourselves
Exactly.
to get either publicity, to
Right.
cultivate an image, or to maximize sales or revenue? Because I gotta think one way or the other, you know, coming from I'll say I've had a tough upbringing. We all have. So I get Will's testimony about what he saw. We all saw a lot of things as children. But when you become one of the biggest bankable movie stars in the world, you've done something that less than 1% of the people have done. And you never saw this guy even curse in records, or he had an image that, at least image-wise, was spotless. And all of a sudden we see
He's the Fresh Prince. He's the
so
Fresh Prince.
I you know, I'm still on going what's going on there. But then I got to look at the Rock perspective. Now, I come from a family of fighters, those of you that know me intimately. So, you know, the rule of thumb is never let somebody invade your personal space. That's number one. So when he was walking up to him, what did he think was going to happen? You know, I mean, even impromptu, you catch me on a good day, you'll see me do this if you put your hands on me somewhere. That's just how I am. My wife will tell you when I'm sleeping. If she roll up on me, she's like, what's going on with you? That might be post-traumatic shock syndrome, being a boxer. I don't know, but that's just me. So here's the thing. It happens. If that was for real and it wasn't scripted, when you turned your back, that's when we would have had it on. Now, those are just different scenarios. But then I looked at the bigger picture, some of the insights of it. Another fan viewing, Will Packard. That was the first time an African American was able to produce the Oscars. 4 years ago, for 4 years ago, we were saying how Oscars were so white, right? That's when our boy Chris Rock was talking, you know, out of turn about Jada then. But here we have a situation where those actions, staged or not, diminished Questlove's win for Best Documentary. And then it also made us, regardless, and you know, in some living rooms in middle America, even the top bankable stars reduced to violence, you know, that type of mindset. Not that it matters to me, but that's the optics. You follow me? And then what was interesting was that, you know, everybody seemed to come to Will Smith's aid. What about Chris Rock? Because you saw, you know, top A-listers going to him when he actually assaulted anyone. And I've never seen that happen even in the street. You smack somebody, nobody's coming to the person that committed the crime. They're coming to the aid of the
Will was the white guy in that instance, you know?
Yeah.
He was the white guy in that instance. You know how you know, the white guy assaults somebody, but somehow they make the victim the problem.
Right.
D, we got to look at it this way, right? The issue is whether you think what Chris said was okay, right? That's the issue. If you think his joke was okay, then Will was wrong.
Right.
If you think his joke wasn't okay, then he was wrong.
Right.
And so people around both sides, they say,
you know what? When you're in a public limelight like a Will Smith is and things like that, and you're talking with a comedian, guess what? You wide open.
Yeah, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it no matter what. Yeah.
I hear you. That's absolutely correct. But we talk about human beings.
About Jada's thing, whether they listened to her Redbox thing or they didn't know. Guess what? Here is a person that looks like Demi Moore who shaved her hair in G.I. Jane. Here's G.I. Jane 2. Whether you're wide open. I mean, let's go back. Let's look at Dick Gregory, to Richard Pryor, to Red Fox. Guess what? There was no boundaries.
Well, let me finish.
Ourselves, we're messed up, but we're too politically correct now. It's the wussification of America, I call it. Well, that we're too soft. Guess what? You know what? If it was a joke, Chris didn't know this, that, or whatever, so forth and so on, blase, whatever. You're in the public limelight. Guess what? You're wide open.
Well, I'm gonna say this, right? Whatever he shouldn't have did if it was a private club. You know what I mean? Will shouldn't have smacked him if it was bananas up there in
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Or you know, he should have done it there. That's so that's not the point. You go look at the totality. First of all, the black community been dragging Will for years. Y'all got to know that, and he's aware of that, right? So Chris's joke wasn't that bad. It was just a straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, Will Smith died a death of 1,000 cuts.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And now he had got to the point where he felt like he had. But here's my point. First of all, the fact that they think black folks in America are fucking Klingons. I'm sorry, my language are Klingons. Like we're violent. That's who we are. You know what I mean? Wrong. But that's
the United States telling us that we're violent. That the most violent country on the planet.
Right. We have no control over that message, though.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't. No, we have control over it. We haven't taken control of it.
Right.
That's what we got. Exactly.
And that's what this whole. So Will Smith lost it. He's human. Right. You know. Only reason I defend him is because I lose it sometimes too.
Well,
so
let me
I understand a guy that loses it.
Okay,
and I'm working on that, folks.
I'm with you.
Okay, well, let me ask this question.
So here's the problem. We talk about this respectability politics on one side, and Will is the poster child for that. You know what I'm saying? And maybe he just like, you know what? I'm arguing on the side of maybe this was real. Maybe it's on the side, you know, I'm sick of this. Let me handle this.
Okay.
I've been getting dragged for years by the black community. Now I got a black comedian on stage who should know better because he did a documentary on black women's hair. You know what I'm saying? He should know better, and he gonna go there. And I'm just saying, as the big picture, I don't care. You know, it's not that big. Will smack this guy. It ain't that big of a deal to me. I'm gonna be honest with you. Right? It's not that big of a deal. Okay. But how we look in all this, we have to take control of our image. We're not doing that. And I'm not saying being respectable. We just have to do what we do and tell them people, I don't care. You know, tell them people, I don't care about that. Because look, did Mel Gibson apologize for his tirade? You know what I'm saying? None of these people who do similar things are asked to account for it the way we are.
Okay.
You have to control that.
All right, so let me just juxtapose the whole issue, and I think we're gonna move on to the subject matter. But I'll just look at it this way: in 2 weeks, we saw 2 fundamental attacks on people, and I'm gonna start with Ketanji Brown Jackson first. Now, look at her qualifications. What a lot of people don't know, and I'll just give you some rough statistics. If you get into Harvard, you have like a 5.8% chance of getting accepted. Just follow me on this. 43% of Harvard graduates are legacy, so leaving that pool is even smaller. So whoever you are, if you're green and from Mars, if you get into that school and get 1 degree, there's an exceptional factor to you. This woman got 2. And she went in being nominated for a full-time appointment to become the most powerful legal legislator in the country, one of 9, right? Going into that, they had already coached her as most people in the media that are high profile are. Will's been in the business for 20 years. What did she do? She looked at them and they were off the chain, talking crazy to try to knock her off her square, is my point. Did that happen? No. Now, here's the question I want to ask, and we can move on. Do you think Will Smith would have done that or made those actions if it was a Weinstein production or a Goldfarb production? Would he have done that if that was a gay man? Would he have done that if that was a woman? If, you know, somebody like a foul mouth, what was her name? The Lisa Lampanelli or somebody said something like that. So that's the question we have to ask yourself. So why does it get to the point where it's okay to do something like that to us?
But that goes back to Terry's point. Now that's where Terry's point comes in more clarity that maybe it was scripted. Because like you said, he wouldn't do that to nobody else, but we got a black production crew. We got all of this documentary coming out that he's won an Oscar for. So now we got some black folk up there, and let's make some buffoonery so we can scar the legacy of black people running the Oscars. That's my point of that.
Any other thoughts?
Well, remember the 1995 Source Awards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little. Now that was a black production with a lot of black people in. I think that was the theater at Madison Square Garden because I was actually there.
Yeah, that's
right. I was actually there. Like, and
you and me both.
Why do we forget? This isn't new.
Right.
This isn't new. The Source Awards was off the chain that year.
Yeah.
So much so people are still talking about it. You know what I'm saying? The 1995 Source Awards was ridiculous.
And we can still say to this day, God rest, Tupac, God rest Biggie or whatever. But that whole thing, I still believe to this day was scripted between Puffy and whatever, that Row dude. Yeah. I think that whole thing was scripted to create this catechism between
some of it was
to bring everybody. Well, I'm East Coast and I'm Crip and I'm down and I think that whole thing was down also.
You're right. Some of that was scripted, and the thing was, the people on the East Coast and the West Coast was ignorant to the fact that this was a stage event to make money, and it made a lot of money. It was the people who was not at the meeting before the meeting, at the meeting, or at the meeting after the meeting, who knew what really was going on, blew this thing up. So now all the people that wasn't there, they think it's a real beef. When have you seen multimillionaires really go at each other? Hunt each other down like that. It was the people outside the money generating and income earning people who did all the negative stuff.
They do anything to boost them Nielsen ratings, brother. And recently it happened. We talk about 95. It happened last year when they started these versus battles. Look what happened at Madison Square Garden when Dipset went against the Locks. Right. That was like an all out, like people fighting in the bathroom about this.
Right.
But,
and that was actually good. That was great.
But to continue my point, if you go to Yankee Stadium when Boston is in town, these guys are fighting in the stands, but it's not a big deal, right? It's just a Boston Yankee rivalry. No, it's unacceptable behavior. But to add on what TP say, we always say this at Genesis: money don't change a person; it just makes you more of who you already are. So if you was an asshole and now you're a millionaire, you just an asshole millionaire. You know what I mean? It's not gonna change you. So
you just an a-hole.
Got plenty of them in pro sports.
Yeah, people stoop low to get these numbers. People are shaking their butt naked on the gram to get their numbers up.
But they always use our culture to boost the numbers. They always use us to boost numbers. That's where the WB started. That's where Fox, started. They always use. That's where we got Martin's show from. Steve Harvey's show, where I think that was Channel 9 at the time, where they use us to boost up the ratings, and then they just cast us away. We're a joke. You know what I'm saying?
So when are we going to change that? When we going to take control of that?
I like the solutions-oriented piece, which is how we try to tie every conversation, Vince. So let's open that up. What say you guys? How do we fix this? What's done is done. I mean, it's in the books. Will was not necessarily a tough guy. He portrayed one that night. There's fallout. We're talking about it from all sides of the equation. How do we control our narrative? Right. BET was one option at one point, but obviously that's changed. How do we fix it?
We've talked about this on the last 2 or 3 shows, and I've been very obviously animated and adamant about this. Until we come together and stop this me factor thing, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, we have to have a code, some kind of code, some standard,
The most powerful people in this world, as far as African Americans, let's just take the music industry. If a Jay and a Puff and a Damon and a this and a that all came together, we could be one. But why? You got Rock Nation over here, you got this over here, you got that over there. if Tyler Perry and Oprah came together, don't you think we can do all of this together on one? If LeBron and Steph and Michael Vick and whoever in the sports entertainment, we talk about there's no representation in athletics and no this. You all get together and 15 of you all and everybody pony up $10 million. You can own your own team. But guess what? The mentality that we have as African Americans, I've made it. I got mine. You got to get yours. Oh, well, I'm going to help out and I'm going to give back to the community and I'm going to do this. But no, if I want to get with DJ, guess what? Nah, man. Because when we get to that and that conglomerate, who is going to be the CEO, the vice CEO, the CFO, the COO? Who is going to be that? Because now there becomes bickering among us. DJ and I've been DJing together for years. We work like this together when we DJ. Guess what? There is no do I give him his props? He gives me my props. But it's not even about that. We're here because we love music. What goes crazy is if he became the next Tony Humphries and looked at me and been like, ah, man, you can't get on my bill. Or the next Oprah and is like, I don't want Tyler coming through here because I need to. We got to get out of this me thing, man. We got to get out of me and come to we. And talking about this whole thing that this whole panel right now is about, it came and started in the Black church, where we all came together in the African American community in the Black church. There is no more Black church. There is.
All right, hold that thought.
Let me,
Vince, please get in.
Well, I want to tell you a story. You know, Jim Crow, right? Jim Crow. Jim Crow was a dance. Yeah. Jim Crow is named after a dance.
Yes.
Right? So Jim Crow was a dance. This guy, Tom Rice. I hate the fact that his name is Rice. Let me tell you. Tom Rice, right? This guy, Tom Rice, saw a crippled black man dancing. I don't even know if he was dancing. But then he started doing this dance to imitate this crippled black man. So it's as if we're watching Tom Rice do the dance and we're trying to imitate Tom Rice, who's imitating us at a diminished capacity. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about, so we keep trying so hard to be like them, right? We're trying very hard to be like, and it does not work for us. We cannot do what they do and get away with it. We cannot. We keep thinking, you know, maybe somebody thought I could go slap somebody. Same thing. We get ready to get to this religion. It's the same thing. We keep doing what they do, thinking that we can get what they get. And we never get what they get. We are a permanent underclass in this country. We are put here. No matter how hard we try to get out, the powers that be, the laws, the law enforcement, all of that stuff keep us where we are. So anybody that comes to this country from anywhere in the world are happy because when they get here, they know they have somebody inserted below them. Mm-hmm. So what we do, we don't recognize that that's who we are and where we are and say, we just need to do our own thing. We just need to do us. What we should do, we should not do anything. I know this sounds very separatist. We shouldn't do anything with them. We shouldn't do anything with them in terms of entertainment, right? If they want to see black performers, make them come to us.
Interesting. Now let me intervene there, and I just want to share something. This weekend, I actually went to a show, and it was called the Culture Tour. Now, when I heard it announced, I said, I wonder why they're calling it the Culture Tour. Well, it turns out that entire platform is backed by the Black Promoters Collective. So a bunch of different promoters from across the nation, all African Americans, pulled that together. And let me tell you something.
One of the brothers is locally right here. We at Shelby.
Okay.
Shelby's right here from the Poconos. He's right here with us.
That's right, because I saw, by the way, I saw one of the Sistahship and her husband there in the front row. But
yeah,
anyway,
they just sold Shelby his new house.
Okay, got it. Look how small the world is. But here's my point. That show was on point. And it just goes to Vince's point, because people from New Jersey that know about promoting know about 20 years, they just know the name John Scher. You look him up. At the time, John Scher, any concert that was in New Jersey, the Meadowlands, or anywhere, it was one man doing that. So I want to just make sure that we all understand that these are things that we can do. This isn't an idea. This is an instance of where the BCP group actually got together and they charted a tour, 22 cities. All of them sold out, by the way. And they've got good professional acts, and they're giving brothers like Jodeci, who were once on top of the world and kind of just, settled out, a chance to reinvigorate their brands and show their talent. So I like your point, Vince, and I like to put concrete examples to things like that, because we're at a point where I think we've given all of the air that the Will and Jada news story should encompass. And Chris is going to come back. He is what he is, and if he's a really good comedian, like I know he is, he's gonna have some jokes, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So let's make this abrupt shift and talk about the subject matter. And the subject matter is the African American experience and the church. History, Black historians especially, have debated whether the role of the Black embrace of Christianity under slavery was positive or negative. And I got to put that through a historical lens, because most of us know that Africans, particularly in the western region of the sub-Saharan, were Muslims. Many of us were brought here under bondage in 1619, starting to embrace a culture of Christianity. And even if we look at some of the factually accurate portrayals of slavery, the most important, I'm talking about roots, you saw that where they kind of kept customs. A lot of people that know me know I don't eat pork. Well, there's a reason for that. Some of it is health, but most of it is spiritual. So before we actually talk about the history and the implications of the church, I do want to make a disclaimer and say that, religion and spirituality are two different things. And as we talk through that lens, let's be cognizant of the fact that, a religion is just a uniform set of rituals that form an identity, whereas our spirituality is what we can believe. And I'll kick it off by asking the question, what's yours? And this is a deeply personal question. And if you want to pass that, feel free, no harm, no foul. But what role has the church played in how you navigate? Is it the same as when you were brought up? And has it deviated? Do you still have faith in the church? Special guest, Vince, give me your thoughts.
Why do I always have to go first, man?
Because you're the guest. We setting it out for you.
But you know how hard it is? Everybody else has the benefit of hearing some commentary before they chime in. I have to be the commentary that they have the benefit of hearing.
Okay.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna go ahead. I don't care. I'm just being silly. Oh, now look, there's so much to unpack here. How many shows y'all gonna have on this topic?
I think in less than an hour, if we keep it Chris, we're gonna have a top line version of it.
So repeat your question, because I don't want to lose focus.
Has the church had an impact on, since your upbringing to now, what effect has it had on your spirituality? And do you think that the church today is going in the right direction, or has it deviated from its original mission, which was implanting the supreme spirituality to get us through the African American experience in America? That's the better question.
You mean the Black church?
Yes.
I think I'm going back to my other comment. The original mission was to be like white folks.
Okay.
That's the original mission. Because we're doing that. Look, just read the Bible, man. They got names in the Bible. The Bible is a depiction of a region of the world that did not have a guy named Timothy in it.
Okay, so let me.
You know what I'm saying? So I have problems with that. I have problems with the fact that the text that we use in religion and spirituality has been modified. You know what I'm saying? The Bible is a bunch of stories and parables, right? That come from differing places. It was assembled together as one book. All of those stories don't come from the same place. All of those stories, you know what I'm saying? So you got King James, who empowered somebody to put this in writing. Well, I ain't buying I don't buy the interpretation that I'm getting, and I don't buy every story that's in the book. That's just who I am. You know, maybe because I'm a scientist, maybe, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, but so was Einstein, and he was very religious. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying that the black church started off wrong with this religion thing. Because we had a religion. This was a religion that was given to us. I'm gonna leave that. I'll come back later.
Okay, no, I think that's a great baseline, and that also leads me to say the opinions expressed on this show are the ones from the guests and not necessarily of Genesis Radio. I think I'd have to say that, and I'm saying that for a reason, because you bring a point. I got to go into the studio. Rudd, church.
Yep.
Did it positively impact you? Do you still think it's relevant? Did we go wrong, and where do we need to go?
I think all black organizations are relevant, whether it's the church, whether it's the Masonic Temple, whatever it is. If it's a fraternity, I mean, whatever it is, sorority. I think all these organizations. I'm from the Divine Nine. This is all structured up differently from when I was brought up and when my parents were brought up. They have a different approach with the church, and you know, now you see the focus is on I hate to throw the names out, but like the Joel Osteens, the Creflo Dollars, they showing us how they structured up like a business, and it just appears to be a money grab to a lot of people nowadays, and that's why a lot of people are not buying into it. But one thing that hasn't changed, in my opinion, in church, whoever could get the youth involved, that's who's going to win. And the struggle in every church is, how do we keep the youth interested? If you can't get the youth, and it's not just church, it's even the music industry. Most of the sales are from people from 18 to 25. If you win that category and you get that behind you, you're going to win every time. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, I mean, I definitely am on point with you with that. And I think that's why the church has, per se, evolved more and grown more with praise dancing and this and that and so forth and so on. But what happened to the church shout, call, and response type of African American churches? Those are gone. What happened to the Tuesday night Bible study? Thursday night, we're going to sit together in sewing club. And Friday, we're going to go and sit down and how can we plan to move forward? Those have gone, because when you get people like these mega churches and their daughter, and he spent $300,000, and you know who I'm talking about down there in Texas, spent $300,000 on his daughter's 16th birthday, and it was on MTV. When you go into a church now and they got an ATM machine, or you have to sit down and fill out a 1090 form to become a member, that's BS to me. We have lost our identity because, again, as I started earlier in saying, it's become a me generation. Hey, we knew in the black community, we knew on the corner of Clinton Ave and Hawthorne Ave,
Zion Hill
and Hawthorne Ave, it's going to be, you know, he going to be preaching on Sunday, but Saturday night, he might be down on Bergen Street and doing, we accepted that, but we still came together as a community. And it became, you know, we need to put Johnny into college. Everybody give up $5. That's fine. you always had a foundation in the community, no matter who was in charge or who was preaching or who was pastoring or who was the deacon or who was the deaconess. We always had a community and a foundation. We don't have that anymore. Where you gonna go?
Well, are any of these churches providing affordable housing? Are they feeding people? Because you know, Reverend Ike and Daddy Grace, they fed people.
Daddy Grace.
They fed people.
Big Daddy Grace.
Yeah,
Those were
they fed people.
were the beginning of
And they were on
preaching.
and they were on the right path, and they were doing the right things for the community and making money on their own. Well, people forgot about the community and just making money on their own.
Well,
That's
you
where
know,
the craziness comes from.
I would like to jump in here and put my 2 cents in.
Go ahead.
I'm a church boy. Grew up in church. I was in church probably just as much as I played sports. I was in church. Church was and my mother took me to church because she had choir rehearsal. So and wasn't no babysitter, so I was at the choir rehearsal. Tuesday, Wednesday, the whole 9. Church was church. All right. Church has changed for me. First and foremost, I used to be very involved in church right here in the Poconos. Too much church here. Church has become a business. All right, it's a money grab, like Rod said. But what I want to go back to say is the black church was the center of the black community.
Yes.
From the moment we were freed from slavery. All right.
Yeah.
The black church was the center. They did everything. They was the food bank. They was the employment agency. There was the daycare. Everything in the black community ran through the black church up until a point when America realized that they were creating 2 Americas. When they realized they were creating 2 Americas and they were both functioning independently and prospering, the government had to step in to create 1 America. And the only thing they could do is come at us with something called the Civil Rights Movement. And what the Civil Rights Movement did, they couldn't sell it to the people in the black community because we were separate. See, segregation was bad, but separation was good, if you get my point. And the only way they can get their message of civil rights out was to get it to the church, to get it to the people, because everything had to go that way. I hear a phone ringing somewhere, but
is that a call?
That's a caller calling or something. I don't know, but anyway, they had to get their message to the black people, so they had to sell the civil rights to the church, to the pastors. All right. And then it was the pastors who took it to the people. So now the government went to the church and said, listen, we're going to take over all those services that you provide. We're going to give them food. We're going to give them housing. We're going to give them job training programs. We're going to give them daycare. We're going to do clinics. All these things that ran through the black church was now proposed to be provided and funded by the U.S. government because they had to stop the creation of 2 Americas. Now, what has happened in the black church? The government came in and they sold civil rights to everybody. Everybody got out and marched. And they did this and did that, but they didn't see the big plan. They didn't see the big picture. Because now, everything that the church provided was taken away from the church. But we as a people, black people in America, we were pre-programmed to run everything through the church. So we didn't stop tithing. We didn't stop donating. We didn't stop doing all these things. So the church no longer had to spend money to provide any services for the people, right? Because the government's now funded, right? The pastors sold us out. Now what has happened is we keep pouring our money into the church, into the black church. The bank account keeps growing and growing and growing. Everything's coming in, nothing's going out. The first thing that happened in the black community with the black church was what? The pastor took a little bit of the money and he stepped his car up.
Money's going out to Rolls Royce.
Nobody said anything because he He brought a car. The pastor used to live in the community. Then the next thing happened, he moved a little further out the community.
He lived 45 minutes away now.
Let me follow you with that. We all move out of the community. It ain't just the pastor reflection of the rest of us. The pastor moved just like the guy on Wall Street moved out of the community, just like the doctor moved out of the community, just like the accountant,
because
lawyer, they all moved out.
His finances increased because of the coffers of the church kept growing.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
The coffers of the church kept growing because we kept pouring the money in.
But let me follow that.
It was nothing that he did.
The barber and the plumber and the electrician, their coffers grow and they leave the hood too.
But
Now,
they're using their ability to make that money, where we are actually donating that money to the church, and he's taking that money and moving out of the community.
Well, let's hold on. Let's do a timeout, because I think, that's part of, I'll say, and let's separate this, because I think we were still in the history part. Let's kind of decouple that, because the integration piece is a I'll say an after fact of what's happened in the church. See, because I contend, and I just want to pull this back, before you could go across that railroad track, we have to remember that Christianity was initially in America brought here to be or make slaves subservient. So I don't want to get into the academia associated with Christianity, but I'll just try to make it succinct. If you are abused, turn one cheek and look at and show the other was meant to try to justify the debasement of an oppressed people. Trust me, because if we look at the other monotheistic religions, we're talking about eye for an eye. If someone harms you, you make sure that you take retribution, blah, blah, blah. So I want to just step back so we start talking mindset about Christianity and how this church process occurred.
But D, you can't separate the mindset from the general culture. Like, I want to answer Kimberly's comment. Like, of course the church is doing it with the church's money. I understand that. But the problem here is it is part of African American culture to leave the hood.
Yes, but okay, here's where I'm going. That changed because when we couldn't, and this is what I just don't want missed, and we can continue the conversation. When we were, and this is my contention, when we could not move, our spirituality got us through.
Yep.
That's how I got over. Isn't that a song? I got over. That's what I'm talking about. So through the oppression, right, we had to come together because we didn't have anyone. Our culture flourished through the church because, as Terry said, that was the basis of everything. Now, I'll share a story with you before I open it up. In my household, people had gotten so tired of being oppressed, they started to listen to a man who had a religion, and his name was Elijah Muhammad, okay? So now in my family, I had a whole litany of uncles and cousins in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. They said, you know what? We believe in Allah. Now, growing up, I had to go to church and the mosque to understand this. So I'm a critical thinker. And I was like, I believe, I always believed in a higher power, but what actually got a little bit more confusing, which had required me to go do further scholastic studies, was, hey, you know what? There's something to this. So my point is, religion is brought here for us to make decisions, but religion was brought for our ancestors to serve a purpose. And there's a difference. And I'll stop there.
So you got to look at all the other religions that came over, from the continent. Though you got to look at, voodoo. You got to look at
that's true.
Yoruba. You got to look at all of that other stuff too. And so it wasn't the church; it was the community. The church was the community. The community was not the church. So when people got together, they were doing what they already did in the other religion. You don't give Christianity, don't get that credit from me. They don't get that credit because we didn't have, first of all, we didn't have a choice but to get together. Let's start there. right? Secondly, that's what we did before they were Christians, right? So now, you know, we see it now. Once again, we're trying. We go along. Even in the continent now, they're trying to be like these American churches, you know. And what we have to admit to ourselves, you know, before we can move on, well, we have to admit to ourselves that people in the United States are more like each other than they are like anybody else anywhere else. We have to admit that. We're like the white people here, they're like us. Now, we run around lying about it. We run around saying, I ain't nothing like them. But it's a lie. Just like they can't say they're nothing like us. They sound, if you, no matter where you're from on this planet, if you go back home, as soon as you get off the plane, the people in that country said, there goes some Americans. No matter how long you've been here, and no matter where you're from.
Well, let me tell you something. It's easy to pick out Americans in general when you leave the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Because all of us are fat. Consider that. Because, well, not all of us are fat, but what I'm saying, in comparison to the Europeans,
yes,
who ride bikes practically everywhere and walk everywhere, they are thin. As soon as I got to the UK, I didn't say anything. And as soon as we got through customs and we were on our way to the hotel, the cab drivers knew immediately that we were American. And I asked, well, how do you know we're American? He said, all Americans are fat. You know,
well, I'll put it to you like this. I went to Barcelona. They didn't have the size extra large in the store.
Okay.
True.
Well, you know, there's an interesting comment that someone put on saying, being a preacher's kid made me see how church people and the pastor behaved, and they stopped going when they were in their late teens until they were around 40. Perfect on Sunday, hypocrites other times.
Wow,
Now,
that's
interesting.
That's crazy, because I stopped going to church because the pastor insulted us because we were playing in the church youth band, music ministry. We were playing a song called Express Yourself by the New York Community Choir.
Yeah.
Right? And we was jamming to that, and he walked in there and he gave us the business because he could not relate to the song Express Yourself that we wanted to play because we were young. I'm talking about, this probably was about 1978 or 79, or maybe earlier than that. But I know I was a kid, and I knew then that I'm out of here. The moment my father gave me the green light, that I don't, because my father always thought the church was a scam. But my mother ran the show, so the kids going to church, so we had to go to church. But the moment I got the green light to bail out, I was gone and didn't come back till I was in my 40s, I would say, or late 30s, to get back involved in the church, just to be hurt all over again.
You know, Terry, and that's a true thing. I left around the same time, about 78, 79, and I haven't been back since. I just don't feel nothing about the church. You know, I just don't have any really good experiences with the church, because I've always seen hypocrites, like you say, perfect on Sunday, but you see them during the week and it's just chaos. And actually the pastor at the church was sleeping with a couple of the women in the church. And I was 14 years old. And I was like, that's it for me. I'm done. You know, and like you said, as soon as my mother gave me the green light that I didn't have to go no more, I was done. I was done.
But isn't that what I alluded to earlier? That on the corner of Clinton Place and Lyons Avenue, there's a church. But down on Bergen Street, there's a bar. So the person who would talk to you on Sunday morning was the same joker down at the bar on Saturday night, shooting dice. But we accepted it. And even though he was a hypocrite and telling us not to do this and do that, guess what? He was still helping the community. He might have been tapping this and doing that with people and women in there and the deaconesses and whatever, but there was still the daycare. There was still helping the community. He was the handyman and he preached to you, but he could roll a hell out of some dice too. And he would be the first one in there every morning, or the first one at the hospital, whether it's Beth Israel or Martin Medical Center down but he was the first one. So that's what I'm saying. This whole culture has lost that now, even though he is doing this and doing that, we don't believe in him anymore because he has moved out the hood, which, hey, no problem. He's moved out, but he ain't coming back except on Tuesdays and Sundays. And he gonna make sure that that bank account is right on Thursdays, so he can go do this and get his plane and do whatever needs to be done and travel the country, travel here and there, promoting his book and doing this. Well, those book funds is going back into the church. No. So our community, back to the original point that we're talking, our community has been lost because of the African American church is gone. We don't have that glue anymore. He would go out, even though he'd be shooting at it because he knew all the knuckleheads. So he'd go out and be like, yo, man, come on in the church on Sunday. Let me see you there Sunday. Well, let me get this baby these new shoes. He would be there in the community. We knew it.
And he was the marriage counselor too.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
I think that motto is a failure from its inception, because that motto implies, that motto expressly states that we have to be like them.
Right.
And that doesn't work. You understand what I'm saying? That does not work. We go to church. We follow the exact. First of all, this whole sin all week and then go to church on Sunday. You guys realize that's the Catholic model, right?
I was going to say that.
You guys realize that, don't you?
Because at the end of the day,
once again, we are mimicking.
You about to get us in trouble with Facebook, man.
Right. But what you're saying is true, because
which is the mob.
Being forgiven is the model.
Hold on. Basically, what you're saying is, and having gone to a Catholic prep school, that was one of those sacraments. You could sin all the way to the end, but on your deathbed, you could get that sacrament of anointment and
say a couple Hail Marys and call it a day.
But Darren, you didn't even have to wait to your deathbed. We had the confession booth. You got to remember that. So you didn't have to wait to your deathbed.
That's true.
You go to the confession booth. You could sin all week and come in and confess your sins, and we're all good.
And say a couple of Hail Marys and call it a day.
And you're all good.
Are you guys familiar with the 42 negative confessions?
No.
You should become familiar with that. It's 42 negative confessions from Africa. So we have the 10 Commandments.
Hey, listen, it's DJ Rudd. This is not the opinion of the Brothaship, but the way this is starting to sound, just give up hope, everybody. I'm only joking, but
we're not giving up hope. We're trying to figure it out.
But I'm saying that's what the church is doing today. It's something to have hope, and you gotta have some kind of hope. Other than that, it's all doom and gloom. We know what it is now. We didn't know when we were younger, but if you hang around long enough in any organization, you start seeing the BS. Yeah. Even at my job, I'm starting to see the BS. I don't want to be there no more. And I don't really mean that. but I'm just saying. And that's what we do, right? At the end of the day, when you hang around anything too long or long enough, you start to see the back office BS and all that. But you didn't come in there like that. You came in as a humble servant, soldier, or just to get your paycheck or to get an education or whatever you was in there for. But I don't want to just paint everybody with the same brush. There are some churches that still have a lot of juice in the community. Now, a lot of them are not. But a lot of them are still providing at least the hope and give people something to believe in. Other than that, we're gonna be in worse shape than we already are. If you don't believe in something, you fall for anything, right? That's what they say, right? If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Right. So we gotta stand for something. And that's why I like platforms like this. I think what we're doing to change this is that we are controlling the media, which is the message that goes out is very important. And we can see this in Ukraine and Russia right now. The people were seeing what they wanted them to see. They had Putin looking like a hero over there. But the people that had access to social media, they were hearing the other side of the story. If it wasn't things like the Gram and and Twitter and Genesis Radio, these other type of platforms, it would only be what they showed us.
Yeah, exactly.
So they have lost some control of the message, and I think that's the key to the change in the future. That way, when you have Arsenio Hall have the #1 show in the country until he had Farrakhan on there, then they pull the plug. This will change. If it was his platform, he could have anybody he want. You know, we can talk about anybody we want up here. We giving a disclaimer. It's not our opinion. It's not the opinion of our sponsors. It's our opinion. Right. But people are hearing us, and this is a good platform. This becomes the church. The Brothaship becomes the church. Exactly. When you can see 4 or 5 intelligent brothers having a conversation, and if I had beef with one of y'all, I think I had to go back to the Will thing. You said we all slip, or we all lose it. The only difference is when we lose it, we get arrested. You know what I mean? And when they lose it, they get a pass. That's the difference. We can't lose it at this stage. There's too much at stake. There's too much to lose. Now, I got to say, brother, after the show, we need 5 minutes. And we can go in the backyard and scrap. But our revolution won't be televised. It's not going to be sending the wrong message to the kids that this is how you resolve the problem when you have it. Now, we showing them you can resolve and you can make change in a different manner. And I think that's why I'm honored to be on this panel today, because I think it's so important to have these kind of conversations. And like my man said, we don't have enough time to even address this. This got to be like a part 2, 3, 4, 2 things that you can't never stop talking about is politics and religion, because there's so many different opinions and there's so many moving parts in these subjects that this will go on forever.
But I think by scratching the surface, this is the start. So let me kind of recap at this point what I thought I heard from all of us. We all agreed that at one point in time, the church was the center of Black life through necessity. Okay.
Agreed.
I think at some point we're saying in time that there's been a deviation, and we've all outlined our different reasons. Some feel we're trying to be something we're not, or it was always crafted to keep us away from who we really are. Some people believe or had stopped going because they saw the hypocritical nature of where the churches deviated from. But where I want to stop and then start looking at the future is that there's no doubt that at some point in our experience as African Americans, we were able to create a spirituality to endure one of the most horrific acts of humanity, of debasement, through chattel slavery. I don't think we can argue that. Our grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-great-great-grandparents, if they were in the South, if they weren't freedmen or people of money and prestige, the church affected them. I can see my grandmother through thick and thin. She was from North Carolina. She lived into her 90s. She went to church every Sunday, even, into her declining years. It was non-negotiable for her, and she tithed, she did her thing. But my point is, we are now in different areas. There's professionals on in this panel. We don't believe in that faith that got us over based on what we're saying. So my question is, with this church, do we look at it from a distance? Do we practice spirituality versus religion? So I guess my question is, and I don't want to make it of a personal nature, so that's why I'm framing it as opinion. I mean, is there any way that you guys see yourselves going back into a house of worship, or will you follow a path of spirituality to have that connection with the higher power that you subscribe to?
Well, Darren.
Oh, okay. I thought
Darren,
I was first. Okay.
Yeah, you let him go first. We made him go first the whole show.
Yeah. But Darren, the whole our whole society, we have become individuals with this internet thing. We have separated, and even with the pandemic, we've separated even more. So I don't think there's ever going to be going back to church. You know what I'm saying? Because we're in a different society now. It's totally different, and we have much more information. And there's many other options out there besides just going to a church and communing there and getting together there. And I'm more spiritual. I'm way more spiritual. I think the church is just a bunch of rituals, but you know, it's a whole different society than it was back then. You know, we were more tight knit back then. We needed each other. You know, we had to be around each other. Not that we don't need that now, but it's a whole different setup now. You know, like right now, we can call somebody on the other side of the planet and talk to them. Easy, you know, no problem. Back then in the 60s, 70s, you could do that, but it was a time thing and this and that. Now you could do it. I can instant message somebody on the other side of the planet. So we've separated in that aspect. So I think it would be I'm leaning more towards the spiritual side, you know, because I don't see getting together in a group anymore like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Okay.
I like the sense of community of the church. I like the fellowship. I like getting together with like-minded people.
Right.
I like exchanging information. I think the church can serve. The church was better when it engulfed the fellowship, the community, you know, because then our schools were better. You know what I'm saying? You know, so I like that. But I also think, you know, in terms of embracing this church, you know, we are all, you know, God is all of us. We are all a part of that. And until we understand that we are all separate pieces of a whole, we can't move forward. So this individuality, once again, is what we're buying into from the European concept.
Ooh.
That's not an African concept.
Oh,
so we keep trying to be like them. And what happens is it would work for us if we weren't on the bottom rung. So I've stated this on my page before. What happens is there's this ladder, and every ethnic group in the United States gets a rung on the ladder, and we're still on the ground. And everybody uses us to step up on the ladder. And so what happens with our law enforcement is empowered to protect those on the higher rungs of the ladder from those on the lower rungs of the ladder. And since we are the absolute bottom of the ladder, everybody's being protected from us.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a serious point. Now that's the boom. Yeah, that's the boom right there.
That's the boom.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I would support an organization again, because it is an organization, as long as we realize that. Because Darren, I'm gonna use DJing as an example. Like my partner next to me said, we can touch anybody anywhere in the world. Look, you do your show remotely. You don't have to come to the station to DJ no more, right? You could be on this platform and you don't have to be in the station.
That's right.
But that day you was here, and I said, go in there and DJ. It was the fellowship. It was the environment. Yo, you was hype. You was dead. It was different than DJing at home. You know what I mean? So the church is the same thing for me. I like the fellowship. It's just certain things I like to be in the presence of it. Like I just have to get out the house. I'm a person that like to be out. I don't even like to eat alone at this point in my life. You know, the community is what it is. So depending on how it was structured, I would get back involved. I just would say we have to go back to, it was rules to coming to church when I grew up. My father wouldn't let me come to church unless I had on a button down at least. I'm not saying I had to have a full 3-piece suit, but I had to look a certain way and carry myself a certain way and conduct myself in a certain manner. It wasn't what it is now. It's like, just come as you are. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like they so desperate, like they'll take anybody. It have to be some kind of structure to this. And we got to go back. Some things we got to keep from our ancestors. You know, we can't just trash out everything they did and just say that didn't work. Let's do a whole new thing. It was some things they weren't getting right. And I think we just got to look at that, see what they were doing right there, and just see where they went wrong. And maybe we have a chance to get back in the room and fellowship again. I'll leave it like that.
Darren, I think the question that Darren said, and I didn't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry. But I think what the question that Darren asked is a twofold question. Is there spirituality and where do we go? First off, I think it starts within us. I get on my knees every night and pray. I pray to a higher being, and I call him God and Jesus Christ and everything else. No matter who you look up to, there is a higher being. This is religion. Second of all, it's where you want to, or where we want to go with this. Do we want to go back and being a longtime educator and still a coach and working with kids and youth? I think we need to get back. You know, people make jokes and say, boy, you need Jesus. Yeah, we do. Or we need whoever in our life, but it starts within us. And once we have reached that power or that platform within ourselves, then we can go out. And I definitely agree that it is a fellowship and a community. Let's come together as we do, you know, on the first Sunday of every month, and come together and have a dialogue. And you know what? We need to have a dialogue that's going to ruffle some feathers. I made a CD one time and I was like, you know, it stings. But what Bill Cosby said was true also. We don't police our own selves anymore. We don't. The community and the church did that. Whether you was drinking Boone's Farm on the corner, it's shooting dice on Saturday night, but on Sunday, you will get a little bit of goodness in you, and you may go bad on Thursday again, but you had it there. We need that fellowship.
Hold up 1 minute, Bruce. Did you say Boone Farms?
Yeah, I was a little more advanced.
Wait, what happened? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said,
He
did you say
questioned
Boone
your
Farms?
Boone's Farm.
Wait, you know, hey, Boone Farms, Night Train, and whatever.
What you want? Ripple? Twist up? Which one you want?
Wow,
Hey,
wow.
you know how to smack the break now.
Wild Irish Rose? Which one you want?
That's right. Let's smack the break.
Wow.
But honestly, going back, we need this fellowship. Hey, Darren and I grew up down the street from each other. We've known each other 45 years. Guess what? If I'm out of pocket, they'll be like, yo, man, not for nothing. That's some bullshit. Stop playing. And I would do that to him. And this is the fellowship that we need to get back in the community. This is where that I generation, they going crazy. We went to Chancellor Avenue. We walk up Vassar Avenue, go to school, come back. If we did something wrong, Miss Shorter up the street would already have told his moms and my mom. Now I'm gonna catch it, get into his crib. His moms will go crazy on me, and then I have to go home and hear it again. Where is the community? But that community came from the church. That community came from us believing in each other. We don't believe in each other anymore. We have no more faith, but the faith starts within. If I believe in myself, then I'm definitely going to believe in you and you and you. I'm going to believe in you, and we're going to make this right. But if I don't have the faith in my own self, how am I going to tell you what to do? The old adage, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Yeah, guess what? My house is glass. I'm going to throw a stone because I'm going to try to knock you in your head and make you believe where I'm at. And let's get it together. So it's not come on to my side, come on and believe what I believe, but I'm going to listen to you and we can discuss it. We can have agreement to disagree. That's where the community and the fellowship has to come back again.
Hey guys, you know what? I'm going to share. I'm going to share on a topical level. Was to show out with going around room. Here's the deal. I captured a few things from the conversation. Fellowship and spirituality were the two things that I want to speak to. Now, on a personal level, I don't go to church, but I do have a level of spirituality. Now, I'll share something as topical as I can. I am involved in a fellowship because at one point in time, I needed to change the error of my ways. Let's just say, for lack of a better term, the devil was in me. I'll leave it at that. But my point is, what I had to do to get my head right was to believe in a higher power greater than myself. And I had to be able to tell the truth about who I am and what I'm up to. And when I started doing that and started being in a structured situation where everybody was going toward the same path, you know what I'm saying, in truth, and going to building that relationship with the higher power, my life fundamentally changed. I was able to think a little bit clearer. I was able to be more purposeful in what I was trying to do. And from a material perspective, things got real better real quick. So I say that to say that don't have nothing to necessarily do with church. That has something to do with being in a particular space with the same positive energy going toward the same path. So that's separate from church, but we can make that church, because if we believe in that higher power, we all come in that same room with the same common goal. We can get to the same space. I've seen it done. I'm doing it, you know, because I've made a commitment for that to do. So when we start talking churches, we close. I think, you know, a bunch of slaves got in a room and prayed to their higher power because they knew that the conditions that they were being put in were unjust, immoral, and just didn't fit the narrative of what they were being taught. That makes sense. So for us, what we have to do, because we have the ability, the freedom, and hopefully the common sense to look and build or rebuild these institutions so we can move to the same space. So I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to give Vince the last word once again so we can land this plane. What say you?
Well, from DJ Rudd, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I appreciate this platform. I think the subject is necessary to discuss, and we're going to have further discussions on this subject. And just like we talked about the Boone's Farms, all I'm saying, when you step outside, I don't care whether you're going to church, take care of business, you know, throw some water on it, you know, put on your little hot karate or your Brute by Fabergé or whatever y'all was wearing. You know what I mean? Come out looking like something, because when you look like something, you feel better. You know what I mean? You walk a little different, got a different strut, and even people respect you different. They approach you different. They talk to you different. You know what I mean? We can't come out here looking like, you know, Big Worm on an ice cream truck and then expect somebody to talk to us correctly or whatever. They're going to talk to you how the way you carry yourself because they don't know you. So appearance is half the battle, in my opinion. We got to clean ourselves up a little, man. And from our appearance, from our dialogue, from the way we communicate, and from the way we resolve problems, and just learn how to have a little better resolution, man. I'll leave it at that.
Darren, you know, I'll take it from here. Darren, I agree with you 100%. That was well said what you said. You know, it does start inside of you first. And that's what I mean by, you know, spirituality, because it's what you feel inside and who you are inside and what you could take from the universe and our ancestors. You know, when we sit down and we talk to our ancestors and try to figure out this life that we're living in. And then the point that you made, then we can get together and we can go to the religion aspect of it. You know, we can do it that way. So that point is well said. And that's something that I'm going to, you know, let marinate in my mind, because that was well said.
Thank you.
Yep.
TP, are you with me?
Oh, I'm with you, man. Well, you know, I can say one thing. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not going to say I'm religious. I'm going to say I have a relationship with a higher power. Whatever you call them is your prerogative. You know, Allah, God, Jesus, Buddha. As long as you believe in a higher power, you all right with me. And I'm going to say this show was great with all the different perspectives that we had. And I was even enlightened about some things, you know. What was that? Vince talked about the 48 sins. I got to go.
42 confessions.
42 negative confessions.
42 negative confessions.
All right. Yeah.
Look that up. I got the page up right now.
I'm going to get on that.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So hopefully the Black church can heal and get back doing what it was doing, because the civil rights movement, I just want to add this quickly, was also sold to the synagogue, right? The synagogue took their money and took their services, but never stopped doing their job for the community. The Jewish community, the synagogue still was taking their money in, but they kept serving the community. So that the community got a double portion of help. They got the government's help, and they got the church, the synagogue church help. So hopefully the black church can heal and get back to that, and we can get away from just the money grab and this prosperity preaching that they're doing right now.
Woo, Bruce, what say you?
I definitely appreciate everyone's comments and commitment to this, and it's really not a lot to say, man. It's I'm getting a little emotional because this is what we need. This is where we have to start, and it starts inside of us. And I feel it with everyone who's on this right now. It's inside of us. We've got to keep moving this forward. It's here for us. It's right here. Let's grab it, man. Let's take this to the next level. Let's move this forward. This brothership has been such a blessing to me, man. It's been unreal. It really has. And I appreciate y'all, man.
Hey,
Really
this is part of the plan. Thank you, brother Bruce. You even made my eyes a little moist. But anyway, I love you, man. We're gonna save the last word for the special guest this time and flip.
Wait, you see how that spirit is moving, Bruce? You see that? The spirit is moving them.
That's
what
right.
I'm saying. Bruce, I ain't even had to start preaching, man. You was already bringing it.
Man,
right.
Come on, brother. You can saying all the way, man.
You can cash at me your offering, though. I
ain't gonna get that Ferrari this month from me.
So what say you, Bruce?
Gonna be there.
What say you, Vince?
Yeah, like we need to look. If you look at the Jewish faith, it's all about books and reading and knowledge. Why are we not about that? We just taking what they gave us. There's information out there, like I just gave you guys a 42 negative confession. Like Harris. There's a Jesus Christ in several different cultures. There's the same guy. You should read about all of them. You should understand your spirit. You should understand your body. You should understand all of that. This is just a vessel for the spirit. We are spirits with bodies. We're not bodies with spirits. You know what I'm saying? We are all spirits. It's funny. Police made a song, "We're spirits in the material world." Couldn't be more right.
Yeah.
We are spirits in a material world, and we have to come to grips with that. We got to understand, the cosmos, how we fit into this whole thing. And we're fighting against our true nature. And that's why we're still where we are. I believe that we paying for something. And until we get it right, we're going to keep paying. We need to figure out what we need to be for ourselves, because we are uniquely situated in this culture as the bottom people. So we need to figure out a way, since they come to us for everything, since they co-opt everything we do, we need to make them pay a premium for it. We need to become about ourselves, right? We need to move to communities. We need to keep our professionals and our artisans and our craftsmen in our communities. And if anybody wants something from us, they got to come to us. And I'm saying it about the church. I'm saying it about everything. They don't want what we got. They want what we got. We just don't believe it because we want what they got. So we chasing them, chasing us. We need to stop. But that requires sacrifice. That means we can't be as wealthy. We can't be as this. We can't be, we can't get all it. We can't get that bag. You know what I'm saying? When you go to get that bag, you going by yourself. Go get the bag with a group. Right now, I'm just going to end with this point. Right? Cannabis is legal in New Jersey now. Unless we get together, we can't get in that game. And I'm not telling you to get in the cannabis game, but it's an example of all the games. You know what I'm saying? We got to pull together to get in that game. If that's what you want, or any game. It could be a delicatessen. It could be a pharmacy. It could be anything. But if we don't, the 99-cent stores, those people who run those 99-cent stores belong to a consortium. You cannot do it alone. Church, I don't care what you do. The pastor is not God. He's a man like the rest of us. He's a woman. She's a woman like the rest of us. We need to stop putting them up there. Let it understand that he's gonna shoot the dice at the bar. That he's gonna have a shot every now and then. But pay attention to the message he's giving you. And if the message ain't good, replace him with somebody who's gonna give you the message that's gonna make our community better.
Whoa, man! Let me tell you something. This was a show that exceeded my expectations. I knew bringing my friend Vince on the show was going to add a dimension. We didn't talk about it. I said, just come on the show, because I knew as a professor, as a law student, as a technology guru, he was going to bring something without no rehearsal, doing it in one take. Rudd, TP, as owners, just impromptu sitting down with us because you happened to be in the studio was great. Bay is up here physically. I'm about to come see you, my brother. Thank you. This was really good. Bruce, you got emotional. The person I least think would. But that means that the message was given out into the universe and received. So, brothers, thank you. This is what the concept of the Brothaship was, because people are listening to it. It will be rebroadcast over the GenesisRadio.com station. More to come on that as we promote it. But the bottom line
with
is
a Y. Genesis
right.
with a Y.
We're actually live on Genesis right now.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we're replaying it. And it's on YouTube. And I'm sharing all of that to just say this is an organic message without rehearsal, but there is a need for us to be having these conversations. So I sincerely thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for being open and honest. And we're going to keep this going. Thank you, Vince. I appreciate it. And we're going to be out of here. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Great show.
Salute. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's how our community grow. That's how our communities blow.
Yo, sup? You got a sec? I need to build for a minute.
What's up?
Matter of fact, you could chill for a minute.
Okay.
I need a platform where we could talk about some other shit. Get jewels for some other men. I'm looking for a brothership.
Get it right, this real life, we tired of struggling. Airtight on this shot, no more dysfunctioning. We reeling in the sunken in, we bringing in our brother in. The battles that you're facing, be a cannon without comforting.
No disrespect to my sisters at all, but it's the barbershop talk. Talk to kid at the ball. I'm talking waves and just a little.